Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Satology Debunking Mythology. Today we have our yoga scientist back in our show, and today we are going to talk about meditation, Manan, Chintan, because that has become such a big buzzword, and very few people, or there are a lot of groups also who are doing very well, and I congratulate them, and also many American groups like Transcendental Meditation. They're also doing very well, and they've been doing for a long time, especially with the executives. So, meditation plays a very important role in today's lifestyle because people are working from homes and there is no way to meet people out of fear. And so, let us discuss all about meditation in a short capsule around 40 minutes. So, without delay, let us welcome Sri Atul Vyas.
Very good morning to everyone.
Namaskar and good morning. So, meditation has existed in the human mankind from the very beginning when uh,
True.
when Krishna tells Brahma tapa, and it started from there. But of late, it has been made very jazzy. Like whenever Americans pick up anything, is everything is done with it from marketing point of view, how to make money out of. So they picked up yoga in 60s, and now they're picking up meditation. So what do you define meditation as, according to you?
Well, the starting point of meditation is concentration. Concentration dharana, as we call it, the sixth step of the yoga, Ashtanga yoga, is where the meditation starts from, roots of. So, concentration is fixing your attention on any object, whether external or internal. And it requires your unbreaking attention. So, concentration is the first factor where we put our attention, and it has got four components: witness, observation, seeing, and uh, not non-reacting. And when we are doing this, there are many places where we should concentrate as per the yoga. Number one place is Agya Chakra. Agya Chakra. This is Agya Chakra, where this is called Trikuti also. This is said to be the seat of mind. And if you focus and concentrate here, there are certain specific ways how you do it. It is done with certain mudras, which is called Yoni Mudra, Unmani Mudra. They are more profound. Then you can control the mind very easily, number one. And people who are emotional, who are, more bent towards bhakti, they should concentrate on heart chakra. It will give them pleasure. The control of mind may be little difficult, but it will give them tremendous pleasure. Third point of concentration could be nasika drishti, tip of the nose. And many yogis concentrate on their sahasradhara, top of the head. You can say pituitary, pineal glands, and that is also a very, very powerful method of concentration. Now, the quality of the mind is that it is just like water. Water takes the shape of the vessel in which it is stored. Similarly, when mind intensely or intently concentrate or focuses on anything intensely, then it takes the shape of that thing, that object, that person, that quality, whatever it is. So this is the very, very important quality of mind and concentration, which plays a critical good role in meditation. Now, when you are uh, perfect in concentration, you can concentrate for a longer time, longer duration, and comfortably. Then meditation comes in. Meditation, as per yogic traditional yogic text, is nothing but effortless concentration. When concentration becomes effortless, and then it becomes meditation. So meditation is aimed at having no mind. Meditation is a process where the mind stops work, is calm, tranquil, stable, not wandering. I mean, it loses its chanchalta. I mean, wanderlust. So that is the aim of the meditation. So in meditation, what is most important is time of meditation, because the mind should learn it. You have to change the mind, and it, for changing the mind, one thing is very initially very important, that is mantra. What is mantra? Mantra is your, we call it the vakya shakti, your words, power of words, communication. When the vak shakti, or the power to speak or communicate, is goes external, it becomes vak shakti, or your power of communication. When the same, and when it goes toward outside externally, it is binding. The nature is you are binded, you are talking, you are involved. When this power, which the origin of vak or communication of words is from the prana, and when this is internalized, then it becomes mantra shakti. It is very powerful, and it is so powerful that it can cut your bondages to make you free. So mantras are a very important means of calming and uh, intensifying your meditation. Now this is the religious aspect of meditation. Then there are certain rules for meditation: erect spine, erect neck, erect head, calm breathing, and then you can meditate. But the importance is there should be a perfect and exact time when you should be meditating. The best time is in the morning from 4 to 6 a.m. And then there should be a special and very designated place for meditating. You can't meditate here and there. You have to uh, define a place where you meditate daily. And third is your duration. You have to have a fixed duration initially, and gradually it should increase. Fourth is the meditation. Uh, initially the meditation comes, you influence your thought process, or reduce your thought process. It comes with breaks and packages initially. But when you focus your one pointed awareness on any thought, say God, your atma, your soul, or anything, then when with pinpointed awareness, that awareness should flow like without break. That should be the aim of meditation. That is, there are three parts to start a meditation. That is, when you go to a guru, we call it Shravan. You listen to guru, how to meditate. That process is called Shravana, listening to the guru. Second process is Manan. You churn what guru has said, how should I meditate, what should I meditate on. focusing, telling yourself this is how, controlling your mind, focusing your mind on particular thought. And when you that focusing thought in packages, say for 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then you can have a break. The mind again wanders. Don't force it, but gradually do it. And the third stage is called Nidhi Dhyasana. That should be the aim of mind meditation, that one thought of God, Atma, uh, Sagun, Nirgun, whatever you are focusing on, the object is identifiable, or it is non-identifiable, like Atma, which is you can't, which is not physically seen or can be felt. So when whatever the object pinpointed, you're putting your awareness on that thought, should flow like you put oil in a vessel. If you see a oil falling in a vessel, there is no breakage. It falls in one, like one, uh, in one flow. There is no breaking flow. I mean, the oil falls like it is one thing, though the drops are different, but it flows continuous. The flow is continuous, unbreaking flow. Same should be the flow of your thoughts on that, with the one pointed awareness. That is called Nidhi Dhyasana. When that happens, then you can realize whatever you want. If you are doing it for spiritual purposes, you will get that. Or on whatever object, thought, your desires, it will get, you will realize that it will manifest before you. That is for sure. Once, if you do that with Nidhi Dhyasana kind of a thing. So this is all about very briefly about the spiritual aspect of traditional yogic meditation. Now I come to the scientific part of that. What science or medical science has to say about meditation. It was in 1960s when Dr. Herbert Benson of Harvard Medical School was experimenting on the animals. What he was experimenting on the animals? He realized that there is a connection between the high blood pressure and being upset. If a person is mentally upset, afraid, whatever it is, then your blood pressure fluctuates. It goes up. This he had found in animals, especially monkeys. So what he did was, he trained those monkeys to control their own blood pressure. And for that, what he would do, he would measure the blood pressure of the monkeys and do something which would create tension in them and increase their blood pressure. When the blood pressure would increase, he would flash green light. And when the animal would see the green light, he got the message that now he should use your internal resources to control the blood pressure. They would start doing that. And when they would start doing that, when the blood pressure would come to normal, they would the doctor would flash a blue light, which was indicator that now stop what you are doing. This experiment he was doing independently. When some transcendental meditators heard about it, they approached Dr. Herbert Benson and requested that he should try and analyze their transcendental meditation, and they claim that it reduces blood pressure and you should see that. But initially he was reluctant to try it, because at that time it was believed that blood pressure once goes up, it goes up, and it will difficult to bring it down. The physiology has nothing to do, in the humans at least. So he refused. But they were persistent enough to approach him again and again. Ultimately, he gave in to their demands and decided to set up an experiment. He did an experiment, and similarly, incidentally, one Dr. Keith Wallace of in South California was do, trying to do the same experiment. When they learned about each other, they both came to Boston and started doing this same experiment in Boston. In that experiment, what they did was they asked the meditator to sit in the meditating pose, and for they asked them to sit like that for 45 minutes, and they broke that 45 minutes in three uh, span of time of 15 minutes each. And in the first 15 minutes, the meditators were just sitting and not meditating, and doctors measured all their physiological parameters like consumption of oxygen, their metabolic rate, their heart rate, their their finger sensitivity, and lactate content in their blood, and so on. And then after 15 minutes, he asked them to start meditation, and there was no change in the position of the meditators. They were sitting as they were sitting for first 15 minutes, and in the next 15 minutes while meditating they did not change their position, physical thing was exactly the same. There was no change. Only change was they had changed their thought pattern, and for 15 minutes they meditated, and after their meditation they were asked to sit post meditation measurements for next 15 minutes. And during that, he measured all the parameters again, and to their amazement, which he he mentioned in his book, that it was a, I mean, bolt from the blue. It was such a big shock to the me and medical world, even Keith Wallace, when we saw the results. The metabolic rate had fallen down below the rest levels in human beings. The oxygen consumption had fallen down. The respiratory rate, which is generally 14 to 15 respirations per minute, fell down to 9 to 10 respirations per minute. The heart rate again went down. The lactate rate, consumption content in the blood went down dramatically. Lactate is an chemical whose increased presence in the blood creates anxiety and fear in a person. It came down drastically below its normal level, and so why the finger sensitivity came down. So, and blood pressure also came down. So that was, such a, it really gave a big jolt to the medical belief of that at that times. And they again did this experiment. The results were same, and they were more refined now because they were prepared for that. So then they thought whether human being can also hibernate like snakes, frogs, because this was going towards hibernation kind of a thing. In hibernation, same thing happens. Metabolic rate falls down, heart rate comes down, breathing rate almost comes down. So they said, can human being hibernate? But then they measured the temperature, anal temperature, the temperature of the anus, which goes down in the animals which hibernate. But when they measured it in the human being, there was no effect on that. So they decided no, human beings cannot hibernate. So that perplexed the medical community. Nevertheless, they came to the terms, and then they gave this gave this phenomenon a name called relaxation response. Dr. Haynes, who started the concept of stress, had also came to the same conclusion, and he when he independently titillated some centers in the brain which did the same, we showed the same result physiologically to some extent. Heart rate went down, blood pressure went down, breathing rate went down, blah blah blah. So they said there is a deep connection between your brain thinking, which is meditation, and your physiology. And that was the path breaking discovery of that time. And since then, it is being used very frequently in curing, in the treatment of diseases. And then another type of meditation, we call it mindfulness, was also being researched in Massachusetts University, in medical school of Massachusetts University. And there they found that mindfulness also helps in curing many diseases, giving comfort in many others. So it really revolutionized the Western medical science, and they were convinced what our yogis have been telling, that body has a tremendous intelligence of its own, which is called body consciousness, which has the which actually heals the body. The medicines, whatever we take, or medical help, supports this body consciousness to heal. But if a person loses its will to live, no medicine can keep that person alive. That's a medical fact again. So, yoga, whatever yoga and meditation has said was confirmed by the medical science physically. Now, I come again to the uh, to the uh, to the topic of meditation as a therapy, because I was given this topic, meditation as a therapy. Now, why meditation is used as a therapy? It's a wonderful therapy. Now, I tell you how and why it and how it cures the diseases. In yoga, we believe there are five bodies. We call it Annamaya Kosha, physical body; Manomaya Kosha, the body of mind; Pranamaya Kosha, the body of vital force; Vijnanamaya Kosha, the body of intellect; and Anandamaya Kosha, the body of bliss. So these five bodies are always together in harmony. If there is a disturbance in any of these bodies, the entire five bodies are disturbed. And if the disturbance is continuous, you invite illness. This is the concept. Now, any diseases which are born out of Annamaya Kosha or physical body can be treated fantastically by the medical world. They can be completely, I mean, I will not say cured, but they can be healed by medical world and medical science. But there are certain diseases which medical science says, oh, these are incurable, but we can maintain them. We can keep them in control, like hypertension, diabetes, asthma, psoriasis, so on and so forth. Now, why these diseases cannot be cured by medical science and medicines completely, like antibiotic can cure any fever or any infection? Because these diseases are born from the body of mind. And medical world has till date did not have any access to the body of mind. But yogic people had an access to this body of mind, and the tool was pratyahara, concentration, and meditation. Therefore, yoga claims, and very rightly so, that they can cure diabetes completely, root out asthma, they can cure psoriasis, they can cure your all allergies, and I just mentioned few the diseases which are born out of the body of mind. Hypertension, completely. I mean, no doubt about it. Why? Because they have the key of access to the body of mind. And when this body could be reached and healed, the diseases would go very easily. No issues on that. So, now what later on the medical science realized that now 90% of the diseases are psychosomatic in nature. They are somehow the other influenced by mind. Lord Buddha has said that the mind is a conjurer. It can it creates illness. It can create cures. It can create all the material you look forward, all everything, pain, pleasure, happiness, sadness, everything. And this power of mind is called illusory or maya. And mind is totally capable of this. And this illusory power of mind can be countered by meditation. By meditating, the mind can be brought under control, and when it is under control, then you can see the truth, and truth liberates you. So we have seen that the power of meditation and power of mind and thoughts. Now, when people say when meditation was born, it was born with human being. Human being came into existence. Why I say so? Laughter is the most primitive form of meditation. When whenever humanity must have born on this earth, laughter, a child would have laughed. And laughter is the most primitive and powerful form of meditation. Why I say so? In meditation, the ultimate aim is to have no mind, no thinking, free of thinking. When there is no thoughts are there. There is a complete stability of mind, prana, and there are no thoughts, thoughtlessness. Chitta vritti nirodha. Where is no chitta vritti is there. So what happens? Have you ever noticed? When you laugh fully, when you are really laughing, your being is laughing. You cannot think. There is no thought. At the time of really laughing, then there is no mind. So meditation was a technique born with the human being, and laughter is still the most important form of meditation, where your existence melts into laughter and laughter melts into existence. This is so amazing thing and so powerful tool now that the world is still coming to the grips how we can do it. And it is so simple to do it. There are mudras which is called Yoni Mudra. In a dark room, if you sit and plug your ears with thumbs and you close your eyes with this four fingers, then your nose with these fingers and mouth with the rest of the fingers, and take a deep breath through the nose, then close the nostrils and breathe out slowly through the mouth, chanting Om and focusing on here. You see, within few days you will start seeing light here. This is all experimented. Any novice, any beginner can do it and see the difference. You can control the mind very easily if you focus on this. If you try this technique, I mean, it could be 10 days, it could be 20 days, for somebody 30 days, but you have to have faith and devotion in it. And Om chanting is very must in this. It can cure diseases, it can do wonders for you. Because when mind can be under your control, little bit under your control, little bit I say, even 10%, 5%, 2%, you can direct that mind to achieve anything you want in the worldliness or spiritual field. I mean, that is how you want to use the mind under your control. Mind is a very powerful servant and a very dangerous master. So through meditation, through laughter, through, I mean, the main object is that you have to have no mind. You have to have, you need to forget everything including your body. One person, I will give you one example. One person came to me, very rich, I mean, very rich man from the West, very well known. And he came to me and he said, my problem is very severe. And with I got everything, I went everywhere in the world, but I am not able to cure my constipation. I go to the best of the yogacharyas in America, you know, he named, I don't want to name them, but anyway, in India also, he went to Kerala, he went to Calcutta, and all the top, north. Then he came and he was expecting, I mean, I could see the dejection already there. I mean, I will also say something and, and teach him something, take money and say bye, and the result would be that his constipation will still be there. But I just told him very simple thing. I asked him one question: are you very miser? Oh yes, yes, I'm very miser, very miser. Then I told him, you have to do one mantra daily and believe in this mantra. And that mantra is, I am not the body. I am not the body. He said, what nonsense. I said, believe in this mantra. Chant it for 20 minutes, 15, 25 minutes, no medicine. He said, I will stay in Jaipur for next 1 month and I will prove you wrong. I said, I don't mind being proven wrong, but you should not act like this. You do it with an open and objective mind, with the mind of a scientist. See if it works or not. But if you work with the thing, I will prove you wrong, then there is no point. Then he agreed. Then he did it. In 3 days, his constipation was cured and he was having full flow, everything, and he was so happy. And he was a marathon runner. So he said, I clocked 26 kilometers today. And I'm not tired. I feel so happy. He used to be very irritated and angry. He said, my anger and irritation is gone. But he asked me one thing, what is the trick? What it did? I said, this is the power of thought and meditation. Meditation is not only simply sitting and having the thought. Any thought could be, it could be, you can verbally do it, you can uh, internalize it, but generally the meditation I spoke about was spiritual meditations to achieve, attain God and freedom and moksha. I said you did what is the objective of, as per the yoga of human life, that I am not the body. And when you are not the body will take care of itself. Earlier you were miser, so you were holding everything to yourself, and your body obeyed that also. So this is how, what I am trying to say, our thought process influences the body consciousness. You know, when when we sleep, we heal very quickly. That's why sound sleep is very essential. Why you heal when you sleep? Because there is minimum interference from mind and the brain while you are sleeping, and body consciousness is allowed to work. But when you are sleeping, when you are in a waking state, the brain is working. When you are in a dreaming state, the cerebellum of the brain is working. And when you are in a deep state of sleep, your heart chakra is working. That is the seat of body consciousness. So when there is, when you are in a waking state, your mind and brain are constantly interfering in the work of body consciousness. It is like that you are working in an office, you are holding a very senior position, and your boss comes and interferes how you should write, how you should deal this paper, where you should keep this paper, where you should keep your pen, how you should put your bag. In the smallest possible thing here is interfering. What will happen? You will lose your initiative. You won't be able to do anything, and gradually you will keep on asking your boss, sir, what should I do? Be like, can I have a cup of coffee? Can I eat? Can I drink? Can I go for the pee? This is what happens. Similarly, it happens with the body consciousness. But when we are meditating, the mind and brain goes away. And the body consciousness has a free play. And therefore we heal very quickly, and mentally, physically, and you know, spiritually as well. When somebody talks about psychological illness, madness, can meditation heal little, people who are very aggressive or mentally not so healthy as per medical science? Yes, for them there is dynamic meditation. Dynamic meditation is laugh, sing, dance, move, shout, say anything, do anything. I mean, you are free to do anything. Sit, sleep. You want to dance, you want to lie, you want to do exercise, you want to. I mean, as if nobody is watching. In that meditation, no thought should be there except whatever you are doing, whatever your mind is saying. If you do it for half an hour, even a very madman can become sane. You can try this. So what I'm trying to say is that body consciousness, mind, thought, concentration, one pointed awareness, attention, purpose, duration. I mean, we have got so many tools not only to heal ourselves, but to free ourselves and attain enlightenment through meditation. No guru, not even Jesus, not even Muhammad. Muhammad Sahab also meditated in the caves of Salah in Saudi Arabia. It is on records. Jesus also meditated. He said to have meditated in Jammu and Kashmir. So without meditation, you cannot cross the barrier of body of mind. Once you cross that barrier, then only you can get enlightened. Therefore, whether you are pursuing a spiritual field, worldly field, health, field of health, wealth, anything, meditation, control of mind, balance of emotions is very essential, and it can be achieved through meditation. Now, there is another way of meditating without, this process of concentration and all that. That is breathing techniques. Breathing techniques, we call it pranayama. One pranayama means breathing from the left, breathing out, breathing out from the right, and breathing from the right and breathing out from the left is called one cycle. If you do such cycles, 12 such cycles, then you internalize your mind. We call it pratyahara. When you do 144 pranayamas, then you develop natural concentration. Natural concentration, powerful concentration. You become, you can be very successfully worldly wise if you practice 144 pranayamas daily. Because when your concentration is strong, you can achieve anything. And now, when you do 1728, 1728 pranayamas daily, then you enter into meditation effortlessly. This is another method of getting into meditation. And when you do 20,736 pranayamas, you get into trance samadhi. So, friends, this is briefly about. I have given you the spiritual, yogic, physical, medical, scientific aspects of meditation in very brief overview of meditation, and I hope it must be very useful for you and to to carry on this journey of life. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you,
Aditi
Atulji.
ji.
Thank you, Atulji, for such a long and detailed answer on my one simple question, meditation. And and I didn't want to interrupt you because I wanted to hear completely. Thank you for sharing. And viewers who watched it, this will be live shortly. And I don't have any other question to ask. He has explained it so beautifully. And so please do watch it and do subscribe it and do join the Satology meditation programs we are launching very shortly. Namaskar. Thank you.